Today on CityCast Denver, it's crunch time for the election. Ballots are due by the end of the day on Tuesday, April 4th. So who are you going to vote for? It's time to fill in the bubble. It's getting real. Today, me and Bree and one of our favorite guests are going to do what no journalists ever do. We're just going to come out and tell you. Also, the Park Hill Top Golf Course and some killer events happening this weekend. Today's Friday, March 31st. I'm Paul Caroli, and here's what Denver's talking about. Welcome back to CityCast Denver, the show about the city that is currently paying for both its mayor and its governor to vacation in Japan.
Oh, don't even get me started, Paul. I feel
I'm
like
getting
Hancock's
you started.
like,
Bring it on.
I'm about to be out the door. I'm going to spend some more money. I know you guys already have been mad at me for getting on airplanes at various times to do things I shouldn't be doing. And he's like giving us the middle fingers. Bye.
According to 9 News, in the past 6 months, he will have been to Tokyo, the UK, Ireland, Turkey, Egypt, and Ethiopia.
That is so messed up.
It's like,
but we don't have money for other things.
At least Polis is still in office. I mean, Hancock is gone as of July.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But we'll get some more sushi restaurants before then.
I want Uniqlo. That's my expectation for the mayor. I
We
loved
had
it. And it closed on the 16th Street Mall.
It was on the 16th
Bring
Street Mall.
Uniqlo back.
Maybe
Mayor
finish
Hancock.
the 16th Street Mall, Mayor Hancock.
Yeah. Put it in the Cherry Creek Mall.
We're going to talk more about that.
I know.
We're going to put a pin in Cherry Creek Mall,
I
but
know.
I'm very, very interested in that right now. You've heard her voice already. Well, you've heard both of their voices already. We got our host, Bree Davies, here.
Hi.
And one of our Friday favorites, we're keeping it in the building for our big pre-election Friday show. Westward editor Patty Calhoun is back. Patty, welcome back.
My pleasure.
Of course, we're talking about the election. I apologize to everyone that we're still talking about the election.
Well,
But-
with 9% of the people having voted, we should continue talking about it.
Okay, so I know low voter turnout is normal for local elections. Like if there isn't a national something on the ballot, we turn out really well for national elections. But is this normal? The low pre, because we can mail in, we can drop off.
Too late to mail now. Monday
Right.
was the deadline for mailing, but you can drop off in 24-hour drop boxes. It is a little low for right now, for this time. But I don't think it will wind up remaining that low. I think people are really having trouble making decisions.
I agree. That's exactly what I was like.
I
Because
am.
I'm that
I keep
guy.
going back and forth.
Right. But I also think people care enough about Denver, and if they listen to this, they will, that they will vote by Tuesday, because you have to understand just how much a few votes can matter. With 16 different candidates out there, no one's going to get 50% of the vote,
Yeah.
which is what it would take not to have a runoff. But you might get into the runoff with 10% of the vote, and you can think, grab your neighbors and your friends and vote for the person you like, and you might put them over.
That's a good point. I'm really struggling.
Yeah, you hear that? Renata Gang? Hashtag Renata Gang. We can really get out the vote this weekend.
Yeah, well, I have
Paul,
to.
the
I will
Renata
admit,
stan?
I am not voting for Renata because she made me change a quote in her questionnaire.
She did?
Well, we didn't put in her quote of Albert Schweitzer, and she thought we had something against Albert Schweitzer. I think, yeah.
I don't know.
He's not in the race, okay? Yeah. He is not one of the 16 candidates.
I mean, I didn't like her because she said she didn't like women in our interview. So I was like, well, there goes my potential vote for you, ma'am.
But I think we are pretty sure she is not making the runoff. But otherwise, all bets are off.
Okay, we're going to talk more about the election in a second. We got a fun idea, but we have a little bit of business before we get there. We're co-hosting a live show next month, and it's a very big deal. It's going to be super fun with Mortified. Mortified is this national podcast live show series where people get up on stage and read their real life teenage diaries. Bree, you're doing it.
I'm terrified.
You're scared.
It's also going to be really fun, but I am super. So David Blatt, that's the host, does this incredible undertaking of when he reaches out to you and he puts you in the lineup for the show. Then you have to hand your diaries over to him. And he picks out what he thinks are going to be the best entries. And my gosh, he really found a thread in mine that was horrifying. And I'll just tell you, it involves Kurt Cobain. So, and not in a morbid way, and I'm in love with him way. I'm 13. It's 1993. So if you're a Gen Xer, Gen X millennial cusp like myself, I think you might really identify with my deep feelings for my Pisces man, I think is what I call him.
That's sweet.
It is sweet.
Pisces man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did not realize that he's the one that picked the entries. I thought people were like bringing their own. That like takes this up to another level for me.
Yeah, he really you know what I mean? Everybody needs a good editor in the world. And he does that for you. He goes through and says, this is what's going to be funny to everybody else. Or this is what is the most unifyingly embarrassing thing in your diary. And then he makes, you have to practice reading them to him.
Wow.
It was so embarrassing. But
it's going to be incredible.
It's going to be great. It's a very well produced show. I'll say that.
So you can get your tickets now at the link in our show notes. But if you want to win a couple of free tickets, we are giving some away. All you have to do to win is leave us the cringiest, teenage angstiest voicemail you've got. If it's got a Denver twist, that's a plus. But we want to hear about your memories, your teenage cringe memories.
So you can read from a diary entry, or you can just tell us a funny story that just is seared in your memory because you're so mortified by what you had done in your teenage years. Okay,
so the number is 720-500-5418. Leave us a voicemail. Text us 720-500-5418. Voicemail would be better.
Yeah, we love that. We love hearing from you.
Let's get back to the election.
We're dying.
This is where we can't wait. Be. Okay, so this one's for you last-minute voters, because as any political journalist will tell you around this time of year, well, this time of this cycle, I guess, we get texts and calls from friends just asking a simple question, who should I vote for? Because people aren't paying attention like we are, and they just want to know, who should I vote for? So you know what? We're going to tell you. This is the show where we tell you who to vote for. But with the twist, because it depends on you. So like say, for example, if you're a Republican,
who would you vote for?
Who would you vote for in this race?
Because technically we're nonpartisan for this role.
Yeah. Patty, that's a pretty easy answer, right?
Because there is only one registered Republican for mayor, Andy Rougeau. So, I would also say there is some split on Republicans, which is 4 people in Denver, so it's not going to put you over. And I think it's actually 10%. But Kelly Brough, because she worked at she was head of the Chamber of Commerce, I think is taking some of those votes too. But he is certainly pushing the law and order, wear your army boot contingency.
Yeah, our newsletter editor, Adrian, actually told us a story about Andy Rougeau a couple nights ago. Adrian, do you want to just give us a quick version of what you saw on the North Side last night? We're going to talk to Adrian more later in the show, but this was quite something about Andy Rougeau.
So I'm driving down 38th, right by Chubby's. I can't remember the name of the street, but I look up and I see this is kind of good-looking, dapper man in good blue jeans and a white button-up shirt. And I go, that guy looks familiar. He's coming out of this place with his wife, or what I assume is his wife, and a stroller. And I look down, and he's got his jeans tucked into his cute little brown battle boots, or whatever they call those cute things.
The ones we've seen in the commercials.
And on all the debates.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, this man he's walking around Denver with these boots.
Wasn't that Webb's campaign tennis shoes?
He did tennis shoes.
But I mean, identifiable by your shoes.
Yeah, maybe Andy's boots will end up at the Colorado History Museum. Yeah,
he could win. He could win. But anyway, so you haven't heard an interview with Andy Rougeau on the show. We have to address that. It's not going to happen.
We tried. It's not for lack of trying. And I feel bad that we didn't mention this to you all last week, because I know some folks looked in their feed on Saturday and were like, we have no Mayoral Madness interviews to listen to. Andy Rougeau did not get back to us. Al Gardner also did not get back to us. And Aurelio Martinez did get back to us, and then he ghosted us. So those 3, we tried and we failed.
Yeah.
Well, we managed to get all 16 questionnaires done, which astonished us because we thought we were ghosted. Then everyone said they went into spam filters. Oh. But we sent them out individually to make sure they wouldn't go in spam filters. But we did get them. Yeah. And one candidate, who shall go nameless, said, well, I've answered all these questions before. And I said, you wouldn't have a month ago if you'd looked in your spam filter.
Honestly, it says more about them than us.
I know, and you're applying for a really big job. Sorry if a lot of us want to talk to you.
And hear you. I mean, I know a lot of our listeners would be open to listening to Andy Rougeau, but he said he does not care about you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the interviews you've done have been great. I love Channel 12's little 5-minute profiles. They've been really fun.
Helpful. Mm-hmm.
They've been really good. I think listening to people and watching them, I'm sorry to say, as a print product, it gives you a better feeling on some of them.
Kyle
than just reading words.
Kyle Clark's really putting the screws to some people, and they don't like it. which I enjoy.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about the Republican. We talked about Andy.
So that's who you would vote for if you're
you're a
looking for a
Republican.
Republican candidate,
Or happen to like combat boots.
or if
probably.
you're really into that look.
Let's move on to let's say if you're a progressive, if that's what you care about, just you're a progressive. That's how you identify. Who's your pick? I think this is a tough
I mean,
one.
you've got an embarrassment of riches there. So you've got Lisa Calderon, you have Leslie Herod, you have Ian Tafoya, who is really interesting. And I think if he doesn't make the finals, and that's unlikely, I think, he should certainly be someone working in the city. I mean, he's worked in
100%.
the city before. He is really an important young voice.
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
here's Ian Thomas DeFoya. Based on his track record, he's going to figure out a way to make an impact, no matter what.
Right.
I
He
believe
already
that.
has.
Well,
He
and
has.
he's truly, I mean, grassroots has just become one of those words that everybody uses, but I would say that Ian Tafoya is truly grassroots organizer. I'm on his mailing list. I see the kinds of events he's doing. He's really meeting people where they are. And that's what I find truly progressive about him. And also we know him from the environmental work that he's done. We know that he works with unhoused folks weekly. He would be my pick for, if you vote progressive, he would be my guy.
I think with Ian, the progressive, it's about different priorities too. So
For sure.
they're all progressive,
That's
like
true.
you said. A lot of them are, Patty.
Because Lisa's also super progressive.
But Lisa maybe doesn't prioritize like the climate as much. Ian talks about that all the time, and you got to give that to him. So if you really care about the climate and you're a progressive, I think that's who I would take a good hard look
Racial
at.
injustice, environmental injustice,
Yeah.
he is on it and he works hard on it.
Whereas Lisa may be more like criminal justice.
Yeah, and that's her background too.
yeah.
You know, like she's a professor in it, so she's got an interesting perspective on the law enforcement situation here that I don't think any of the other candidates have.
And she's really going to be interesting in this race because she's done very well, I think, in debates. She got 17% in the last election. Now, in the last election, there weren't a lot of other progressives who might take from that 17%.
Yeah.
But I do think she's got a pretty strong chance of winding up one of the finalists. I mean, to get into not a progressive, but the most unusual candidate who's brought interesting perspective to the debates is Terrence Roberts. I have to
Yeah.
say, when you are talking about law and order issues, to have a former gang member is kind of interesting to have on the stage.
Someone
it
with
means something.
Someone with lived experience, someone who's been through the carceral system, somebody who's been in the midst of gang violence himself, survived it, gone on to do work around it.
Shot people.
I
Shot
think
a
he
person.
knows how change happens. That's what his
Yeah.
story tells me about him.
Yeah,
He knows
yeah.
what got him
I don't think of him as necessarily progressive though, but it is. It's just he has a very specific set
Well, and
of
certainly talking about poverty, and
He's
that
got a-
poverty is the baseline of so many
Yes.
of our problems.
Yeah.
He's got a bit of a NIMBY streak, I think. I don't know if I would say progressive or conservative on that, but he does have that like community rooted, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with change, anti-gentrification, that bent.
Well, and let's also admit, Denver is not going to elect a former gang member who.
You really think
Hey,
that's
we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see
I
on
don't
Tuesday.
think so.
We'll see on
but,
Tuesday.
But already he has brought good conversation to the table.
yeah.
All right. I think that's we got to keep moving. Some of these categories are really fun. That one we could talk about all day. Here's one classic question: who would you want to have a beer with? If you want to vote for a mayor that's like the coolest hang, who would it be?
Uh-oh. This is a trickier one than you would think.
My vibe, my style would be Leslie Herod. Mm-hmm. We already kind of hang out in the same circles. I feel like I've seen her at places I hang out. She would be somebody that I could sit down with, and it would she would just be real. Be like,
I have to say, I did have drinks with her and a bunch of people after, in fact, Kwame Spearman, too, after the opening of Meow Wolf.
oh yeah,
Fun to drink with.
Yeah, like she's
Interesting.
already kind of out there in the cool art spaces. So that would be my particular who I would have a beer with.
I would hope Mike Johnston would be fun to have a beer with, but I've never had one with him. Don't know for sure.
My answer here is Jim Walsh. And I know
point.
Jim Walsh a little bit. We've spent some time socially. He is a very interesting guy. He's brought forth ideas like UBI. He's pushing forth workers' rights. He really cares about those things. But what people don't know about him is that he has hosted and organized this theater troupe, this like very democratic theater troupe where anyone can come and bring a story and they'll like help you make a stage play out of it. And it's just a great community that he's fostered. Also,
that's
I'm
a
a
good
history
pick.
buff, and he's a
Right,
huge history, like
Right.
labor
If you want to
history
sit
guy.
down and hear a good story about
He is your
Colorado,
guy.
he's the guy that's going to tell you. I would also since we're talking about him right now, what I love about Jim Walsh is he's one of those candidates that brings issues to the table. He's probably not got a chance in hell. But he's having people, he could get people talking about things that they otherwise wouldn't be talking about, like universal basic income. So yeah, I'd love to sit down with him and talk about universal basic income.
Over a beer.
Over a beer.
Another fun.
Over a kombucha, please.
Another fun one. If you're a single issue snowplow voter, if the only thing you care about is getting the damn streets plowed.
Well, Kelly Brough, who's proven that she can plow streets. And in fact, in the many different blind alleys we've chased down when tips come in, someone said, do you think she did something illegal? Did she have her snowplow license when she did that commercial? And we wasted some time checking into it. And that was a completely legal snowplow commercial. So I liked that take
What do you
charge.
have to have a CDL or something to drive a snowplow?
Well, not on an Airstrip. It was in Buena Vista, I think. I can't even remember, but it was all legal. That's all you need to know is she did not break the law. But I will say this. Kelly Brough is definitely a person who is take charge. She has run things. I know when she was doing neighborhood mediations before she was Hickenlooper's chief of staff, I know people in those neighborhood mediation activities, which are horrendous, who really admired how she handled the people and got sides together. So that's interesting. I believe she could snowplow, and she could organize snowplows.
Yeah.
Why isn't she campaigning on that?
Well, she did the snowplow.
I mean, the ad.
Not the snowplow. I'm talking about the mediation of neighborhood
It's
stuff.
interesting. I wonder why we don't hear more about that. People she'd worked with, maybe because it was confidential. I don't know. I would love to hear more from Mike Johnston about when he was a principal. He refers to it, when Barack Obama came here in 2008,
that's right.
he visited
right,
Mike
I remember
Johnston's
that.
school because he was such a groundbreaking principal. And I'm surprised we're not hearing more
We're
about
not
that.
hearing about that at all.
Yeah.
Well,
Chris
also,
Hansen,
I was
you
just
gotta
going to say,
toss
if we're
in.
going to talk snowplows, I think you were referencing that, Paul, his plow the damn roads tweet. So we do have two candidates that are interested in snowplows from
would he,
different
though?
angles.
We haven't seen him in a
Would he?
plow. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But he could direct plows.
I think he would facilitate a conversation. That's
He'd audit them.
Yeah, he would. That's what I wanted to say, but I couldn't say it. But yeah, we talked a lot more about Kelly Brough and Chris Hansen on another podcast actually recently. I don't want to share more of my Kelly Brough thoughts here. I have lots, but I do still think she's going to be in the runoff. But you should go listen to that show, the Get More Smarter podcast. I think we're going to put it in our feed if we can before Election Day. But go subscribe to that and listen to that. Good friends of the show. Should we move on to the next one?
Yep.
How about, God, what would be good here? If you want someone who's going to be tough on homelessness, who should you vote for? Some people want this.
What do you mean? Like the crackdown attitude, like the get rid of encampments, not solve the problem?
Mm-hmm. I think there'd be
Thomas
Patty?
Wolfe.
Thomas Wolfe for sure. Andy Rougeau for sure.
100%.
Thomas Wolfe. Thomas End Encampments Wolf, the guy with the End Encampment sign. It just says End Encampments. Period.
Yeah.
And then the difference is if you sweep them, then where do they go?
Right.
I mean, you have some people who say, yes, I'm going to sweep, but then, we hear Mike Johnston, he's going to have places for people to go. Otherwise, I'm thinking, say, Thomas Wolfe might be sending them to Des Moines unless he puts them in the jail where they currently hold all the cannabis.
I think with that issue, the interesting thing to look at is because they all seem to have very similar ideas about, do we use the camping ban? Do we do the sweeps more? But you're right. It's more,
Where?
Thinking about where to and the whole process, like how to actually help people. It's interesting what part these candidates are focusing on, because Mike Johnston focuses so much on the humanity of getting people off the streets so no one's living in terrible conditions, whereas someone like Mayor Wolfe, Thomas Wolfe, stupid signs are getting in my head. Thomas Wolfe says he just wants to end the encampments, and it's well, how? Doesn't matter. He just wants to end them, get rid of them.
Yeah, if that was the possibility, it would have been done by now. And that's what I like about Mike Johnston's the platform that he's got is he comes from affordable housing. He's been working on affordable housing for a couple of years, and affordable housing is a really tough thing to do. It's hard to make work. It's expensive. It's not profitable. And he seems to have some real concrete plans on how to build us out of it a little bit. And so is he the one that promised to end homelessness in his
4 years in his first term?
Mm-hmm. That's a stretch, but I like that somebody is saying that. We'll see if it really means anything, but
yeah. Can we go out on the biggest one, the biggest, hardest one?
Sure.
So some voters only want to vote for someone who has a chance of winning. This is how some people make their votes. So if someone texted you and said, I want to vote for a contender, the person who you think is going to make the runoff. This is a backdoor prediction about the runoff. That's what this is. But if you
do it, Paul.
only want to vote for a contender.
Don't make me do this.
Patty?
Well, and of course, your vote can make them contenders. That's the other thing, because it's going to be so close. Last night, I was asked this question. So I'm Kelly Brough, Mike Johnston. I think Lisa Calderon is coming on strong. I don't think people are upset enough about Law and Order that Andy's going to get into the runoff. But I have to tell you, the other night, I thought, who knows after East High and Nashville and everything else. But I don't think it's going to be him. So my bet is on those three at the moment. And of course, you can only have two. But my other bet is that it is going to take so long to do the count, because everyone, you are going to go vote, and you're going to vote on Tuesday, that we might be sitting here in a week and not know who are the two.
We also haven't talked about Debbie Ortega. I have to say, I was over in Bear Valley yesterday, and I saw quite a few Ortega signs.
Interesting.
And I think she's not the old Denver vote, but she's definitely, like, if you've been here for a long time, she's got name recognition. If you paid attention to city council at all, she's got name recognition.
No surprises.
I thought she started out very strong. She had good endorsements. She lagged a bit in debates and things like that. So it depends on what you're paying attention to. If you haven't paid any attention so far, she's got name recognition, so that could push her in.
Yeah.
I feel like it's Brough, Herod, and Johnston.
Those are your
That's
top
the
three
sense
that could
I have
end up.
of the top three. I definitely think Kelly Brough is going to be there.
Yeah.
She's got the most individual donors. She's a fundraising monster. She's got a lot of support from insiders. She's got a ton of yard signs out there. People like her. I think all the indicators are Brough.
I'm with you, Paul. I think Brough, and then I would maybe say Herod, Johnston, and maybe Ortega. Mm-hmm. That would be what we're going to see in the runoff. So that's where my predicament is. I'm like, do I go with my idealistic candidate, my ethically aligned candidate, my candidate that I know embodies the ideals that I have, or do I go with the person that's pretty close to that as well, but probably has a better chance to go to the runoff? Now I'm thinking about it differently, Patty, because if I say I'm going to my aunt's birthday party tonight, if I get that whole room to vote for my guy, is that enough?
I say if there's ever an election where you could do it, it's this one, because it is going to be that close.
Interesting.
I can't wait till election day. This is going to be.
I'm just thinking about
Think about it. If
the
you could
spread
say,
of the
I
votes,
really want to push this one person, and you get 100 people to go do it.
Okay.
It makes a difference. It matters. Okay. But we got another story that matters coming up after this break. This is probably going to be a long show because this topic is just honestly just as fun. I can't wait to dig into it. We'll be back in a second with something else.
Hey, my name's Cameron. I have been listening to you guys' podcast for about a year and a half now, and it's helped me make that transition to actually moving to Denver. I stay in the, Central Park neighborhood, and so, I'm just excited to start this journey. I've been here for about a week and a half, but so far everything is great, just as I imagined it. So, just wanted to leave this little nugget of positivity. Thanks. Bye.
This episode is sponsored by New Era Colorado. New Era Colorado is a grassroots nonprofit organization that organizes young people through the political process to win on the youth agenda. Young people in Colorado have some of the highest voting rates in the country. We can decide the fate of our local elections. The April 4th Denver municipal election will be close, and your vote holds power. Democracy doesn't get more direct than this. Learn more at neweracolorado.org.
All right, and we're back. We're going to talk about the other big ticket item on your ballot. Again, it's the Park Hill Golf Course. What are we going to do with it? Voters are deciding the future of the Park Hill Golf Course. That's the 155-acre swath of defunct parkland in North Denver. The developers want to turn into a mix of parks and housing and shops and restaurants and a butterfly garden, Bree.
Oh, yes.
And so, Patty, you got a hot tip this week.
Well, we did, and I already had the tip, and then I heard it from someone else who'd heard it from someone else in our office. So I'm like, we have got to chase this down. And this would be that if 2.0 doesn't pass, that they will put in a Top Golf. Now, we know Top Golfs are popular, but also really controversial. In Timnath, for example, they turned in a petition to make it impossible to build a Topgolf by limiting the heights of fences, because Topgolfs will have fences as high as 150 feet. So if you're in Park Hill, and maybe you don't want pickleball, and maybe you don't want fences that are 156 feet, a Topgolf is not your dream.
Yeah.
But if 2-0 goes down, so the conservation easement stays on. Its only use can be a golf course, or, depending on your legal interpretation, public open space that someone still has to fix up.
Yeah.
So now there's this threat that West Side, if it goes down, will just somehow get the letter of the law so they have enough of a golf course up and running that they can also put in a Topgolf. And we chased this, and they at least addressed it, saying...
I mean, they more than addressed it.
Yeah. They mentioned the word Topgolf. They said, if it goes down, we will have to look at options, and that could be one of them.
Yeah. So
they didn't deny it.
So it's like a threat to
But can
voters,
we-
right?
Can we,
Yes. And it could have been a blind, they could have just done it so voters are scared.
Patty, do you remember Twilight Golf Course?
Oh, of course.
That's where I used to go to the driving range when I was a little kid, and it was a golf course it was a driving range that was open at night in your neighborhood, Paul.
Did they have beer?
I don't remember. I'm sure they did. I'm sure. Why else would my dad take me there if they didn't have beer?
Did this
For sure.
close?
Because it became the Safeway on Quebec and Leedsdale.
And
I'm saying it was in the
I would
neighborhood.
love that.
It wasn't the end of the world.
But here's the thing. I think the rumor that they started this, that West Side started it because people would be so appalled at the Topgolf idea, I have to say, I think a lot of young voters in Denver would love a Topgolf. If you see Centennial,
Interesting.
if you see Thornton, it's a party. It's not just bring your own beer. They come to you. You could set
like
up
full
party
service.
booths.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people might like a Topgolf. So that could backfire if that was the
I wouldn't
original
be opposed
concept.
to it. I wouldn't be opposed to it. However, I feel for the neighborhood being like, that's still not what we want
That's
or what we
a million
need.
times worse.
Yeah.
for
No,
the
I
neighbors.
agreed.
Patty, I got to press you on where this tip came from, because it does matter in this election. How
It's
are
a
you
tip,
sure?
Paul.
How
You
are you
can't give
sure that
away your
it's not from
sources.
West Side?
Oh, I'm not sure that it's not from West Side, except that if it were from West Side, I think they actually would be arguing against their own best interest, because I think as I said, I think a lot of people would like a Topgolf.
Yeah.
So I will say I heard it in a bar from someone very politically connected, but then when we decided to look into it, it was because it came from someone in the city.
God, that's interesting. And God, is Topgolf an eyesore? Oh, I drive past I-25 all the time.
Yeah, I feel like it's more appropriate in a place like Thornton, where it's like, it looks like it's just
Off
like part of the
I-25.
highway.
Yeah.
yeah, it's not something you want to have in the middle of your city, for sure. It's kind of like the conversation around golf courses in general in the middle of cities. It's totally ridiculous. But we should
Does
just
seem
rename
fun.
this podcast the Park Hill Golf Course Saga podcast.
Well, and as I showed you today, one of the funniest things, there is a sign up outside the Park Hill Golf Course now that says future home of an In-N-Out burger, which of course they could put it in, if it passes, they could put that in. That might be a better strategy, frankly, for West Side to say, we'll bring you an In-N-Out burger.
Do you want
Yeah,
an
like
In-N-Out in
more-
your neighborhood?
More
No,
carrots,
you don't.
fewer sticks.
Right, exactly. So
I was just
I
at-
think it's clearly a joke, but it
Because
is
of the
funny.
lines.
I was in an In-N-Out line last night. You don't want that in your neighborhood. It's awful. It's like 10,000 cars puttering to get a burger. And yes, I was there being that person. So
That's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
I don't want that for Park
Well, anyway,
Hill.
so that is political guerrilla theater. Whoever
It's
did it, it's
brilliant.
really great.
When that headline dropped in my feed, I laughed out loud. I thought it was
Patty,
Bree, yeah,
what do you think is going to happen with 2-0? Do you have any ink? Because okay, here's the thing. They're trotting out Terrell Davis to do ads. I've gotten 17 mailers. I see their signs everywhere. But then I look at the comments on Twitter, or someone's Instagram, and everybody is saying no.
I think it is going to go down for two reasons, and neither are Topgolf or In-N-Out Burger. I think some people think it absolutely should be a park, and even though the mechanisms aren't there to make it a park yet, if 2-0 goes down, because West Side will still own it, and creating a park isn't cheap. But they either want it a park, or they don't think the city got enough from West Side in the proposed development.
Yeah.
So those are two very things, like they want a development, but they don't want this one, or they just
We
want
can
the
get a better
park.
deal.
But either way,
Yeah. to
those
me that
they're going to vote against it.
the stain of this seems like a sweetheart deal from the Hancock administration during the last 12 years that have been very tumultuous for a lot of the city. That's how I was feeling. I mean, I've seen some other arguments. I'm not going to say how I'm going to vote, but I don't know. I feel for people in that neighborhood because this is the whole city is determining something for you, and that's really rough for the second
time. A couple
time.
of notes for the record. We said no on the Park Hill golf course developers. We told them no last time. That's what voters said. That's why we're voting on this again. And then also, Topgolf did not comment on the Westward article. Have you all received a comment?
We haven't gotten a comment yet. Now, I know we did hear from Westside that they'd heard from 25 media outlets after our story came up.
I'm sure.
From around the world. And I don't know if Topgolf has responded. They're busy in Timat because they have those petitions turned in.
And the Park Hill thing is like, it has urban planner community on fire.
Urban golf course? Absolutely.
I've just seen people tweeting about it from New York, from all these different places. Like, people are weighing in on what we should do.
Here's another option I have heard nobody propose.
Oh, good
but
Lord.
there was some graffiti. I was at the Park Hill Golf Course last weekend. I saw some graffiti on the other corner, not the In-N-Out Burger sign. The graffiti said "land back."
Oh, yeah.
And we had a conversation yesterday that's going to run on the show next week that kind of has got this on my mind again. What would be the land back option here? How could we use this land to somehow make good on crimes of the past, you know?
That's where we ask our indigenous community what they would want. How would we use it that way? I would love for us to do that, but again, I don't live in that neighborhood, so it's really difficult for me to say.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's one of those conversations about, are we going to be precedent setting?
Mm-hmm.
Is Denver going to be precedent setting around something? We could be precedent setting about giving that back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'll depend a lot on who gets into that runoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about how that's going to play out, because we could be
Upholding
discussing
the deal,
this.
negotiating with the developers again. It's a big
It's a big election,
Hey, this
so
election
vote
matters,
no
dang
matter
it.
what.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you're feeling about this, because I know we've been talking about our anxieties about just filling out our ballots. So if you have any thoughts on how you've been dealing with this election, give us a call, 720-500-5418. The disgruntled election hotline, 720-500-5418. I mean, it might be the party election. You might be stoked.
Yeah.
I just have a feeling most of us are like, what do we do?
All right, we got to take one more break, and then it's time to talk about the weekend.
What's up, weather fam? Rain or shine, I'm Andy Stein, here with your CityCast Denver weather forecast for this weekend. We're coming up at the end of March into early April. We have really come out of March unscathed in terms of not having one of our big March bomb cyclones or winter storms. That's not to say that Fort Collins didn't get an appreciable amount of snow last weekend, because they definitely did. But on a whole, we didn't really talk about any big storms this March. That could change as we head into April. We'll just have to wait and find out. For this weekend, though, hey, we are talking about fire danger and warm conditions. It's going to be another windy day on Friday, just a touch less windy than what we had on Thursday. And what a windy day that was. But Saturday and Sunday looking so nice. We're going to be in the mid to upper 60s. I bet we'll hit 70 on Sunday. We'll have some breezy conditions around, but overall sunny skies and 60s. Heck yeah, it's going to be such a good start to April. I hope you all have a great weekend.
All right, it's time for the official CityCast Denver maybe for your weekend, as in maybe you'll see us there, because as usual, there are so many cool things happening in Denver this weekend, but there's only one where you might see us. Adrian Gonzalez rounds up his best bets in our newsletter, Hey Denver, every week, and he's here to give us his top picks. Adrian, welcome back to the show.
Hey guys, good morning.
Hi.
So what do we got?
All right, what do we got? You can't tell by how chilly it is this morning, but Red Rock season is back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you sound so stoked.
I actually honestly didn't know it ever was not. I feel like they book that place now deep into December.
Yeah, I feel like it goes year round. But tonight is the very first music show happening. It is an artist called Dabin, I believe. It's electronic music. So, yeah.
I was like,
Dabin?
I feel...
It should be nice tonight, too. It's warming
yeah?
up.
I don't know. It's too chilly for me, but...
Are you a Red Rocks person, Patty?
No, not that much. I go a couple times a year. I love Red Rocks when there's no one there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a beautiful place.
I love most places when there's no one there.
All right, event number 2.
All right, second one this weekend is happening tonight at Cerveceria Colorado. It is for Month of Photography. They're releasing a new IPA called Mi Vida, and they're showcasing 4 different photographers. They got Armando Genero, great friend of the podcast, Manuel Aragon, also a friend.
Oh, nice.
Jose Domingo from 3rd Division, and Anthony Mays, which we talked about last year. He's got that show at Platt Park.
Oh my God, that's
This
like my
sounds awesome.
4 favorite photographers in Denver right now. What a great show.
Yeah, just to hang, food truck, and if you buy a 6-pack of this new IPA, you're entered to win a trip to Mexico.
Awesome. Ooh.
Can I just say, I am not worried about photographers and AI. Like, I think photography as an art form is going to be fine. Not worried in the slightest.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about these photographers in particular who are really good at capturing life in the city in the moment, and you just can't. People have to trust you to take their photograph in a vulnerable or like a sacred space, or just where you're with your family or friends, and all 4 of those photographers are incredible at doing that, and AI cannot replicate that.
It's just not ever going to be the same.
I agree.
Patty?
Can I throw in one?
An event?
Yes.
Okay, this is the first time. I love this.
Well,
Unprecedented.
tonight I'm going to be at the Tattered Cover with Alan Prendergast, who has a fabulous book out called Gangbusters about the fighting DA, Philip Van Cise. 100 years ago, we elected a mayor who was a member of the KKK. So if you think we're having troubles now, think of 100 years ago. And he's the one who fought the Klan. Philip Van Cise. So it's a great book. Even if you can't come tonight, buy the book.
Which tattered cover?
Colfax.
Colfax. Okay.
Nice.
And is there an excerpt from it in this week's?
Yeah, it's our cover story.
It's the cover story.
I
So you
forgot.
can
Grab it on newsstands.
Yes.
Yeah, that book's on my desk
I know,
right
I do
now.
wanna
I've
read
read the
it.
introduction. It's really good. He's such
Alan's
a good
great,
writer.
he's such
and
a
it's
great writer.
Good story. I didn't know. I can't wait to dig in.
I can't wait to read that one.
Okay, well, fine, Patty, coming in with a ringer. That's fine. Adrian, do you have a third one for
Wild
us?
card. I feel like I can't top that. But
A 4th one, technically.
fourth
Patty's is
one.
the 3rd.
Okay, yeah.
the Russell Square Park Improvement Project is finally done. It's been years in the making, so if you've been by this park in the Cole neighborhood, they're having their official grand reopening tomorrow morning from 11 to 3, free food, free music. You can check out the new park. It's right off of 37th and York-ish.
36. Yeah, it says 3600 Vine
First
Street.
200 get a hot dog. I saw that press release.
Okay.
It is cool,
That
though.
sounds
I
good.
have
It is
to
great.
say, if you've ever been to a park opening, it's really kind of magical that you get to see everything like pristine, brand new, whether it's like, seating or some sort of sculptural piece or a playground. Because I went to an opening in Westwood a couple of years ago for a park, and it was kind of awesome. So I would recommend that one too. If you're a park person, it's
It's
cool.
a vibe.
It's a cool idea.
And they have an Easter egg hunt.
Oh, cute.
Okay.
And as Patty mentioned, they got hot dogs for the first 200 that show up. And if hot dogs are not your thing,
Good
I've
luck.
got an event Sunday happening at Park Hill Treasures, which is a fun little store. Got many vintage Snap Western shirts there. It is a charcuterie board class. So if you ever wanted to make a charcuterie board, you're not into hot dogs, you prefer charcuterie, as the French call them, you can pay $75 and you get all the materials, make your own board, take it home.
And then you just eat it all by yourself
That's what I do.
while watching, I don't know, watching the new season of Party Down. That's what I would be doing.
Watching the election results, yes.
Well, meat's a stretch for me. I'm not going to say why on the show. Patty,
I'm not voting on this. Are you talking about meat still?
the charcuterie board class.
Do you like that?
Yeah, what do you think?
I would probably just go get a summer sausage at Safeway.
Yeah.
Save
Slice
some
it
time.
up.
Yeah. But that's a good
loose term.
mix of events. So we got Prendergast at the Tattered Cover. We got the photographers at Cerveceria, Colorado.
We have Dabin at Red Rocks.
Dabbing at Red Rocks in the park opening with the hot dogs.
That photography opening is 100%
I'm excited about
where
that
I would
too.
be. I love all those photographers. And there's something different too. We have to acknowledge, you can see them on Instagram. Seeing those photos in real life is always better to me. I'd love to see Manuel and Armando's work and Anthony, and that would be great.
Prendergast also seems great.
You can still read the book.
You can still read the book. Maybe, since Patty is going to be there, there's no maybe about it. Maybe
The
that
correspondent.
can be our for sure you'll see us there. And we can make the photos our maybe. How do we feel about
I
that?
think we could note both of those in our newsletter as possible places you might see us.
Yes.
You could make a night out of it, honestly. Both of those would be great.
There you go.
And there you have it. The official CityCast Denver may be for your weekend, but there's way more where that came from. Adrian's got plenty more recommendations in our newsletter, Hey Denver, which you can subscribe to right now by texting Denver to 66866. Adrian, Bree, Patty, thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
That's all for the week here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were me, Paul Caroli, and Aaron O'Toole. Adrian Gonzalez writes our morning newsletter, Hey Denver. Bree Davies is our host. Our music is by Los Mocochetes, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, follow us on Twitter at CityCast Denver, and tell Andy Rougeau about us next time you see him. You can sign up for that daily newsletter by texting Denver to 66866 and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. See you next week.
You could always tell who sees the press releases. 200 hot dogs. I think
Like, you really read the press release.
I did read the press release because I typed the free things to do.
Yeah. Oh, okay.